Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're going to be doing something we haven't done for 9 months. You can make a baby in that time. We're going to be looking at 3 more Pokemon cards that are so good, they will never be reprinted. I've done 2 of these videos before. I will pop links in the description. The first video, we looked at Pokemon Collector, Uxie, and Broken Time Space. In the second video, we looked at Cleffa, Hypnotoxic Laser, and Energy Removal. So today, I thought we'd start with a look at Power Spray. Now, a quick reminder, these are cards which I think are never going to be reprinted because the design of the game since they came out shows us that the card designers are going away from this. We are not talking about banned cards, so I'm not going to be including Forest of Giant Plants or Lysander's Trump card, because obviously if they've been banned, they're not coming back. So Power Spray then. What's weird about Power Spray? And the weird thing about Power Spray, well, there's 2 things. Firstly, it works on your opponent's turn. It is a card that you play during your opponent's turn. And secondly, it stops your opponent. So what Power Spray actually does, it was an SP card, and you could only play it if you had 3 or more Pokemon SP in play, ones like Garchomp and Luxray, for instance. And you would just stop your opponent using a Poké Power. So, Uxie was a card we looked at in a previous one of these videos. Uxie had an amazing Poké Power. When you put it onto the bench, you could draw until you got 7 cards in your hand. It was like Shaymin EX, but you drew an extra card and it was a single prize Pokemon. Incidentally, Poké Powers were active abilities like Uxie, whereas Poké Bodies would be passive abilities. So think something like Vileplume, for instance, would be a Poké Body rather than an ability, and you can see that the one from Ancient Origins is an ability, whereas the one from Undaunted is a Poké Body. And this just allowed you to turn off one of those Poké Powers during your opponent's turn. They would play down a Poké Power, or a Pokemon with a Poké Power, or just going to use a Poké Power, and you'd go boom, Power Spray. No, you don't. It was limited in that you had to have 3 SP Pokemon on the field, but SP Pokemon back then were absolutely huge. So why do I think it's never going to come back? Or at least for a very long time? And the answer very simply is, it stops your opponent playing the game. Your opponent goes to a lot of effort. They might go playing searching cards like Ultra Ball, etc. They go and get some card with an ability, and then you're just like, boom, Power Spray. Your opponent sets up a board with 2 or 3 abilities that are going to work in conjunction with each other, and your opponent just goes, boom, Power Spray. You go to a lot of effort to set up the game. Your opponent just plays a single item card and ruins it for you. If we look at the cards that have been banned, Forest of Giant Plants got a turn 1 Vileplume, stopped you playing the game, it got banned. Lysander's Trump card allowed you to cycle through your deck every turn and reuse cards like Crushing Hammer, and it got banned. Pokemon generally don't like cards that stop you playing the game, and anyone that played back in this era will know that's what Power Spray did. It just stopped you doing things, and oftentimes you'd go to a lot more effort than your opponent to do it. Incidentally, if you want to go super literal, they won't reprint Power Spray because, well, we don't have Pokemon SP at the moment, but I mean that they're not going to reprint a card that does it like this. Second card that I think is not going to be reprinted in this video, let's have a look at Claydol. Claydol is one of the best draw cards we have ever had. And if you look at the cards that have been reprinted since, it's almost like Pokemon decided it was too gosh darned good. So Claydol here had a Poké Power, Cosmic Power, and what it did was it allowed you to put 1 or 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck and draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. This was ridiculous draw power. Now, bearing in mind how good Shaymin was, when it just let you draw until you had 6 cards in your hand, this lets you do it every turn, but also lets you put cards on the bottom of your deck. So you could have 2 cards in hand, put both of them on the bottom of your deck, draw till you've got 6. I mean, it's kind of like Sightseer we have at the moment. Sightseer lets you discard as many cards as you like from your hand, and then draw until you've got 5 cards in hand. This didn't even discard it, put on the bottom of your deck, and then drew till you had 6. This gave you consistency, and it was around at the same time as Yuxi. And it was redonkulous, ladies and gentlemen. If your opponent got a slightly faster start with Claydol, that was it, you were done. Though to be fair, back then with Yuxi and Claydol, pretty much every deck was very consistent. And I'd like to see a return of Yuxi and Claydol, make no mistake about it. I would love if these cards came back, because I think they were good for the game. But let's look at the kind of Stage 1 consistency cards we've had recently, or we have at the moment. Octillery let you draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. That's 1 fewer card, and you don't get to put cards on the bottom of your deck first. Zeb Striker lets you draw 4 cards, but only after discarding your entire hand. Pidgeotto lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 in your hand and 1 on the bottom of your deck. You see where we're going with this? The cards we've had since Claydol have been drastically, significantly weaker than Claydol. I don't think Claydol is some inherently stupidly broken card. I think that the cards released since Claydol have shown that Pokemon have no interest in making a Stage 1 drawing Pokemon that is as powerful as Claydol. And that's really the point of this video. It's not necessarily, hey, look how crazy broken these cards were. It's, look at what Pokemon have done since. They have been showing us they are not gonna be reprinting this card. Maybe one day we get something close to Claydol, but if they printed Claydol or something similar nowadays, that would completely remove any reason to play Zeb Striker or Pidgeotto. I mean, we've just been shown Silvally GX, which has the same ability as Octillery, and there'd be no reason to play that if we had Claydol. It's almost like, if we wrap all this up together, it's almost like we needed Power Spray just to slow down Yuxi and Claydol a little bit. And to be fair, SP decks couldn't use those cards as easily. They could use them, but not as easily. So it made sense to give them a little bit of a counter. Make no mistake about it, this is, just silly good, ladies and gentlemen. Silly good. Certainly better than anything we have now. And the third and final card we're going to be focusing on in this video is Junkarm. Now, incidentally, I said that Claydol wasn't going to be reprinted because the similar cards printed since are nowhere near as good. Junkarm's not going to be reprinted because it was too good. Junkarm let you discard 2 cards from your hand, then grab yourself an item card and put it into your hand. I know it says trainer card, but that was back when trainer meant item. And oh my goodness, this just meant you had whatever you needed. Pokemon Catcher could just be reused over and over again. Plus Power, which by that point just got discarded, could be used over and over again. I mean, it really was just over the top silly good. It meant that you could have whatever you needed. If you needed a Pokemon Tool card to give yourself that little bit of a boost, maybe an Eviolite back then. Yeah. The thing is, if they released it nowadays, you'd be able to reuse stuff like Reset Stamp, which would be kind of bad for messing with your opponent's hand. Now, you did have to discard 2 cards to use it, but the fact of the matter is, you could play something slightly disruptive and then just use it over and over and over again. Back in that format, the question wasn't, hey, do you have a Pokemon Catcher? Because you always had a Pokemon Catcher, because pretty much every deck played for Junkarm. Now, interestingly enough, this did kind of get reprinted later as Dowsing Machine. And to be fair, Dowsing Machine could get any trainer card, not just item. And that was when trainer did mean trainer. But the fact of the matter is, that was an ace spec. Not only was it 1 in your deck, but playing that meant you couldn't play something like Computer Search. And that's kind of the point here. Maybe Junkarm comes back as a once per deck. You've got to really restrict your deck building options to play it. But in terms of actually coming around as a card like it was, if you played in the Junkarm era, you'll know that what it did for the game wasn't necessarily healthy. Some people argue that having that level of consistency was great, but other people argue that the idea of playing one crushing hammer and then having access to 5 is not really what we wanted to do. And I just don't think Junkarm's ever going to come back. It was actually in the Pokemon base set as item finder, and so many of those initial base set trainer cards were full on broken. And when they come back as stuff like Junkarm, we turn around and go, yeah, actually, on second thought, maybe we don't bring them back. Maybe they are too good. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Those are 3 cards that I don't think we're ever going to see again. If you want to check out the previous 2 videos, don't forget there are links in the description. But for now, please tell me what you think of all 3 of these cards. And of course, tell me which cards you think are so good they'll never be reprinted. Although remember, we're not looking at banned cards because, well, they've been banned. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWazzy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WazzyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.